Welcome back to the SurroundSounds podcast. My name is Hannah.
And my name is Jenna, and today we're going to be talking about the CBMT.
The CBMT stands for the Certification Board for Music Therapists, and it is the organization in which we are all credentialed.
The CBMT is the only certifying board for music therapy and is NCCA accredited.
The Certification Board standardizes music therapy practice by administering the board certification exam once students complete their education.
They're also responsible for recertification, continuing education credits, and they offer resources on where to find a therapist nearest you.
The CBMT website also has a page called Find a Provider.
Under this page, you can search for a provider near you based on your location, their provider's location, their name, or their music therapy number.
Each state has its own licensure and certification requirements, so those can be found on the CBMT website as well.
To maintain an MTBC certification, you must recertify every 5 years.
You have to get 100 credits every 5 years, and the website outlines in what categories that you will need to get credits for, such as ethics.
They also have a section where you can upload your continuing education credits and chart them throughout your cycle.
There are a lot of different ways to get recertification credits, including going to conferences, giving presentations, as well as songwriting, session planning, and getting additional certifications such as the neurologic music therapy certification. Graduate and PhD programs also count towards recertification.
Our recommendation is find what interests you. If you feel like you should be getting credits for it, check in with CBMT. You might get credits.
If you would like to learn more about CBMT and its organization, feel free to check out their website, which will be included in the episode description.
AMTA is the American Music Therapy Association, which was founded in 1998 after the merging of two previous organizations.
It's a nonprofit that's dedicated to promoting awareness of music therapy as well as providing access to music therapy services all around the country. There are different membership categories for AMTA members, with student memberships starting at $60 a year.
And professional memberships are on a quality-based payment scales, which changes based on your need.
Being a member of AMTA increases your level of resources for a variety of things, including music therapy literature, advocacy opportunities, seeing job postings within the job center. There are a variety of benefits of being a member of AMTA, including having access to increased resources about internships, potential schools offering music therapy, different postings in the job center, advocacy events within the community, as well as learning about all the music therapists in your area.
You're also joining a part of the greater music therapy community and learning about upcoming events that might be offered to you. One of the events that AMTA hosts every year is an annual conference.
And in addition to that, you also get a discount being a member for various music therapy literature that they offer through their bookstore.
One of the benefits of having this professional organization is it provides legitimacy and representation within our community.
It also streamlines a lot of conversation and networking between music therapists across the country.
They outline our ethics and our standards that we must uphold as professionals.
And it also regulates our education in colleges and universities around the country, as well as internship sites for when we complete our education. The board certification exam is administered by the Certification Board of Music Therapists.
This exam consists of 150 multiple choice questions, and you're allotted 3 hours to complete the exam.
The exam and questions are reviewed by a committee and updated periodically.
For the initial attempt, the cost is $325, and any attempt that you might do after is $275.
People typically complete the CBMT exam after graduating from their internship by going on the CBMT website and finding a testing center near them.
You also have the option to retest during your recertification period every 5 years.
The CBMT exam allows us to be accredited professionals within our larger communities.
It also allows us to engage in a network of like-minded professionals.
The CBMT exam regulates music therapy standards, practice, and education within the music therapy community. Taking the CBMT exam is often one of the most important parts of a young music therapist's career, and there are a lot of different ways that you can go about studying for the exam.
We had a lot of informational tips and tricks from our interviewees during season 1 of our podcast. We're going to take a look back at some of their recommendations.
I'm trying to think about what does a test think their best answer is? Kind of focus on understanding the test more than focusing on accumulating, more content.
You need to read these articles, but don't read them for the results. Read those articles that tell you how the therapist is doing things. How are they organizing the sessions? What kinds of goals are they using? Because these things are really going to inform you, and you're going to also get some of that vocabulary that you need for the exam. Because this is what was going on when they got the questions for the current exam, right? Because the exam is always a little bit behind what clinical practice is, right? Because they do this practice analysis survey every 5 years, and they build the test for those next 5 years on that last one. So I'm always saying you really should be getting into the journals. And so we are constantly in our program, wherever I'm teaching, they're reading journal articles all the time, right? Because this is part of it. I also emphasize the vocabulary, going back through your textbooks and really hitting that glossary. Get those vocabulary words down, because if you know the vocabulary and you're not struggling with what that word means, you're one step past that struggle, and you can do the analysis questions. You can think about what they're really asking you, and you're not getting caught on the words.
They told me to review like kind of my intro to music therapy textbook just to get a broad perspective on the different populations music therapy can be used with. And then they just were like, review your music theory skills, review your blues and your Dorian and Mixolydian scales and all those things that you don't use super often, or that you might use, but you don't always know the name of. And then they said, if there's any populations you haven't worked with in a while, definitely review those. Like I didn't have a lot of mental health clients in my internship, so I definitely went back and reviewed those. And that really helped me.
I believe like the first time I took the exam, I had, read Suzanne's book again. I had taken the practice exams online. I'd kind of like done all the due diligence things you're supposed to do. And the challenge that I ran into is actually the amount of time it took me to go through all of the questions, because for me, that's something that's always been challenging for me. I'm not the best test taker, and when you put me on a time limit, I'm gonna stress out and I'm gonna lose a lot of my confidence and my ability to think clearly. On the CBMT exam website, you see the handbook and you see the domains of areas that you're supposed to study for the exam. I think that that is really helpful to look at when you're preparing. And what I would recommend doing is writing down any pieces of those domain areas that you aren't feeling so confident on, and then the things that you know really, really well. Mm-hmm. The things that you're not feeling so confident on, I actually, a friend of mine had put together a Quizlet of all of the terminology and the vocab or different scenarios. And I used that as like a big tool for studying, and that was really helpful. I took sticky notes that were different colors for each domain, and any kind of terminology that I ran into that was, a little bit more difficult for me or something that I was having trouble remembering, I wrote that down on the sticky note, and then I put all of the sticky notes up in different places in my house. The hope is that you remember walking through your house and touching each sticky note and reading the terms. And so when you're in that place of like fight or flight during an exam, you can recall what the sticky note said a little bit more easily than just going through flashcards.
Regardless of which way you choose to practice, remember to have confidence in yourself and be sure to practice self-care so that you can go in on test day being as relaxed as possible.
Another study tip that I found helpful when taking my exam was marking each question based on a category of easy, medium, or hard for me.
I found it really beneficial to take the practice exams from the CBMT website. You do have to pay for them, but I found them really beneficial not only for the information that you need to know for the test, but also to know how the questions were formulated and to practice really those test-taking skills.
One of my supervisors here at A Place to Be told me that when taking the practice exams, try to put yourself in the position that you will be in on test day. So instead of taking it in your bed while you're comfy, relaxed, try to sit down in a library, or if you have space at your internship site or at school, finding a place that feels a little bit more like what a testing site will feel like.
Also remember to keep practicing those self-care practices and routines to make sure that you're nice and relaxed as much as possible on test day. That concludes another episode of the Surround Sounds podcast. Happy Music Therapy Week to you all, and we will see you next time.